another MTM TV Newsweek magazine. Welcome, Sheena Hansen. She's with me today, and I'm your host, Denise West. First up in the news is local. Government pushing fiscal limit in COVID-19 response. The Prime Minister Andrew Holness has stated that while the government has prepared for a surge in COVID-19 cases after the Christmas season, it won't know whether those plans are sufficient until next year. Mr. Holness was questioned by the opposition on the matter during Tuesday's sitting of the House of Parliament. Mr. Holness said the adequacy of the preparation will depend on the number of new COVID-19 cases. He said the government continues to spend in order to ensure that we have enough medical personnel and that we have enough public health personnel and that we have supplies, that we have beds, and that we have everything we need. The administration continues to push our fiscal limit to ensure that we have a proper public health response, he said. Mr. Holness said the best strategy is to try to prevent a huge increase. He has warned that prevention measures could be tightened in the new year if cases get too high. There'll be a ticketing system. The Prime Minister also told the House that a new ticketing system for breaches of COVID-19 regulations should be ready soon, with the provisions to be presented to the Legislative Committee shortly. A number of other measures for the changes in penalty will also be ready for enactment shortly, he added. No, people, this is getting serious. I cannot understand why the Prime Minister would say that he's not sure that the measures are sufficient or adequate. Why then is it that you have decided that you are going to ease up on the restrictions in place? Mind you, it might be an hour. After the normal time that you would have closed off, it was 9 o'clock. Now he says 10, and then for 5 o'clock in the morning. For me, what I would have done if I was the Prime Minister, I would keep it at 9 o'clock and you do not come out of your houses until 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock. It is a holiday. I noticed he changed to 7 p.m. for Christmas and New Year's. Nonetheless, the Prime Minister must recognize that Jamaicans are party goers, a number of them, so they will party in the day. What he must ensure is that where they are partying, the limits are on the parties and the number of persons are reduced. We have to be careful. We cannot leave 2020 going into 2021 the same way. We need to ensure that we are in a better place and in a better position. And for me, my opinion is that what we need to do right now in terms of that is to seek the Lord while he may be found, because we don't know if we are even going to make it to 2021. I'm going to hand over now to Sheena Hansen.
Hi, I'm so happy to serve you today. Forced vaccination law in Denmark abandoned after public protest. A law in Denmark that would have given authorities the power to forcibly inject people with a coronavirus vaccine has been abandoned after 9 days of public protest. The epidemic law would have handed the Danish government the power to enact mandatory quarantine measures against anyone infected with the dangerous disease. The Danish Health Authority would be able to define groups of people who must be vaccinated in order to contain and eliminate a dangerous disease, reports the local. People who refuse the above can in some situations be coerced through physical detainment, with police allowed to assist. However, after 9 straight days of protest against the new law, it has now been scrapped. Governments across the world are mulling over what punitive measures to bring against those who refuse to take it. Last week, we highlighted how both ticket masters and airline companies are considering barring people from entering venues and flying if they cannot prove they have taken the vaccine. So while public protests may be able to prevent authorities carrying out forced vaccinations, people who refuse to take the shot may find it virtually impossible to enjoy any kind of social life, use public transport, or even find employment. Now, look at it in Denise. New one world order has begun.
Yes, ma'am, we are at the end of times and we need to open our eyes and recognize what is upon us. Because if it is that you refuse to take it, you realize what it is saying, you will not be able to get any kind of service at all. So, people out there, I'm asking you to wise up. I'm asking you not to bend. I'm asking you to be careful of what you enter into your body because if you do, you might find yourself on the side of the Antichrist and your end will be worse than your beginning. Now on to international news. COVID-19. Latest UK updates. The UK is on its third wave and there's a warning from the EU as the UK Christmas plan revealed. The latest coronavirus updates as the UK plan for Christmas is agreed, the COVID-19 restrictions will be eased from December 23rd. We also now see where Poland breaks their own coronavirus-related daily deaths record. A record of 674 coronavirus-related deaths have been reported in Poland, the highest number reported within 24 hours in the country. There have also been 15,362 new cases. Throughout the pandemic, Poland has seen a total of 924,422 infections and a total of 14,988 fatalities. Wow. Can you imagine? Warsaw is in a pandemic and the cemetery is full. While in Indonesia, it breaks its record for new daily coronavirus infections. The country saw 5,534 new cases reported on Wednesday, bringing the total of 511,836 according to its coronavirus task force. There were also 114 new deaths, bringing the total number of fatalities to 16,225. We understand that relatives keep visiting the graves of the coronavirus victims in Jakarta. Now it makes me wonder if people keep going there and if people keep dying, what precautions are they taking to ensure that persons are not catching the virus? Father Christmas is ready and raring to go. PM's reassurance to 8-year-old. The UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has just released his reply to a boy called Monty, who wrote to him asking if Santa can visit if he leaves hand sanitizer by the cookies. Wow. I understand you are very busy, but you and the scientists please talk about this, the 8-year-old inquired. The Prime Minister has responded and even included some advice from England's Chief Medical Officer, Professor Chris Whitty. He read the letters and he said to other persons, read the letters for yourself and share it with your own children if they are worried about visits from Father Christmas this year. Monty, aged 8, wrote to me asking if Father Christmas will be able to deliver presents this year. I've had lots of letters about this, so I've spoken with experts and can assure you that Father Christmas will be packing his sleigh and delivering presents this Christmas. No, people, you tell me, an intelligent man, the Prime Minister of a country, we all know that we have all these little things going on, these fables about Santa Claus and packing the sleigh and delivering presents. In a time such as this, when you should be sensitizing children to the truth which will make you free. Can you imagine a prime minister telling a child that Father Christmas will be packing his sleigh and coming? It is just so wrong. Parents, you need to remove the fables and tell your children about Jesus rather than Santa Claus, because Santa Claus represents Satan, we mean Satan. So we need to ensure that we tell our children about Jesus. Then we see questions being asked. How will a no trade deal divorce the EU affected COVID vaccine distribution? Rishi Sunak will present his 1-year spending review against the backdrop of the coronavirus pandemic and with the Brexit clock ticking even louder, writes our business correspondent. No sector understands the twin pressures of these seismic forces, one natural, the other self-imposed, better than pharmaceuticals. The industry has surprised itself with the speed of its response to coronavirus. To have 3 vaccines ready for approval just 9 months after the disease emerged is already a triumph. But British companies like AstraZeneca, ready to roll out the Oxford vaccine at cost, face the additional uncertainty of the transition period ending in just 36 days. Remarkably, AstraZeneca and their peers still don't know what regulations will apply to European trade on January 1, 2021. They have been asking for basic professional and testing standards to be rolled over in a mutual recognition deal for more than 4 years, but they still have no answer. And despite stockpiling for Brexit, border delays affecting supplies of medicines, including vaccines, is a very real prospect. A French custom test of a new border control yesterday caused a 5-mile tailback on the M20 within hours. The spokesman for the British industry, Richard Torbett, of the ABPI, told Sky News the impact could be grave for patients. We don't need this extra red tape, extra complexity, extra cost, and extra delay getting in the way of our supply chain at a time when we are trying to deal with COVID, he said. That is so sad. Persons' lives are at risk, but then we know that the vaccine can't help. So what's the rush? We now see a 7% rise in recorded domestic abuse cases during the first lockdown. New statistics released by the Office of the National Statistics show a worrying continued rise in police recorded domestic abuse cases. They were up 7% from March to June 2020, the period covering the first national lockdown, compared to the same time last year. But it added, data suggests that experiences in domestic abuse may have intensified during the lockdown and that victims face difficulties in safely seeking support under these circumstances. No, people, when it is a time when we should be caring for each other, when we should be loving one another as Christ loved us, when loving each other should be covering a multitude of sin. Can you imagine violence is being perpetrated? So there is no love. Our nations have gone crazy. And I suggest to you that now is the time to seek the Lord's face and ensure that you are loving upon each other in the right way, that you are protecting each other, that the wiles of the devil is not coming upon you to cause you to be doing things that are antichrist. Meanwhile, in the United States, they have still got Thanksgiving to get through over the coming days. An Axios Ipsos poll found 61% of Americans would change their Thanksgiving plans due to rising COVID infections. But that means millions of Americans are planning to ignore warnings to practice social distancing. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the leading infectious disease expert in the US, said people should think about whether seemingly innocent get-togethers are worth it, and is concerned about people traveling around the country to see family and friends. You're at a crowded airport. You're lining up. Not everybody is wearing a mask. That puts yourself at risk. That's what's going to get us into even more trouble, he said. Here's one bigger take, which seems to echo the arguments taking place in the United Kingdom over Christmas. Don't risk post-COVID Christmas third wave, EU leaders urged. Ursula von der Leyen has called on the European Union leaders not to relax coronavirus lockdown measures too quickly. I know that shop owners, bartenders, and waiters in restaurants want an end to the restriction, the EU Commission president said. But we must learn from the summer and not repeat the same mistakes. Relaxing too fast and too much is a risk for a third wave after Christmas. We see some cases starting to fall. On Tuesday, a further 11,299 infections were reported, but daily deaths remained at a high of 608. Other news, Christmas rules relaxation should be managed carefully as virus is still a deadly threat. Ahead of the spending review later, Labour's Shadow Chief Secretary of the Treasury, Bridget Phillipson, is speaking to Kay Burley on Sky News. She says it would be irresponsible to freeze public sector workers' wages to help pay for the coronavirus spending splurge, warning that would have a real impact on our economy at a very fragile time in history. It would also mean those staff cannot support high streets and local businesses as much as they do now, she adds. It would be irresponsible and short sighted to shift away from that need to invest in our economy. And on the rules being relaxed over Christmas, Ms. Phillipson says it's perfectly understandable that people want the opportunity to see families and friends after a very tough year, but that the government should communicate that message of what's expected of us clearly. The change from 23rd of December to 27th of December should be managed as carefully as possible since COVID-19 is still a deadly threat, she added. People, we see where our government too has relaxed the measures somewhat. It's not too relaxed, but it's still a cause for concern. Because even though he says curfew is 9 o'clock, we still see a lot of people on the road right now. After 9 o'clock, you're in your homes and you hear the vehicles coming and going. And those are not all what you call it essential workers. So we need to look at what we are doing, and we need to ensure that whether morning, noon, or night, we are taking the necessary precautions during this silly season. £27,000 fine for hair salon owner who defied lockdown. The owner of a hair salon has been fined £27,000 after staying open during the second lockdown. Kirklees Council in West Yorkshire said Quinn Blakely Hairdressing in Oakenshaw was selfish and irresponsible for remaining open despite restrictions remaining in place. The council said the hair salon had received a notice to close and a fixed penalty notice on November 9th as its first warning, and had subsequently been issued with fines for every day it continued trading. A spokeswoman said the business received £1,000 fine on November 9th, a £2,000 fine on November 12th, a £4,000 fine on November 21, and a £10,000 fine on the 23rd and the 24th of this month. Clearly that saloon must be making some crazy pounds for you to be receiving this kind of fine and you continue to perpetrate the law. It is madness, people. We need to listen to what the authorities have to say until the persons who let loose this virus decide that they must contain it. And from what I'm seeing here, it's an antichrist move and there is no intention of containing it. So there's no back to normal. I am suggesting to you people that you will listen to the orders. On to U.S. news. Biden to inherit the new world order. President-elect Joe Biden has signaled that he will move swiftly to restore dignity to the badly sullied image of the United States. Respect for the professionals of America's diplomatic, intelligence, and military services, and a more predictable, nuanced, and sympathetic approach to foreign relations. That message of a restoration of norms is likely to resonate in many capitals around the world, as it did with an electorate that gave Mr. Biden a decisive victory over Donald Trump, the current president. There is much that Biden can do in his first 100 days. He has already vowed to promptly rejoin the Paris Accord on climate change and to make climate action central to his administration. I'm going to cut here a bit to say to you, to remind us that this climate change thing that they are coming with, it is all man-made. It is all man tampering with everything and calling it climate change. So to say that you are joining the Paris Accord on climate change and make a climate change central, make it central to his administration, what we need to do is to stop depleting the ozone layers of the earth, people, and to treat the earth as what God has given us in Psalm 8. He says that he has given man dominion over the earth, over the fowls of the air, and over the fish of the sea. So we need to take care of our coral reefs. We need to take care of the earth. Biden has declared his intention to restore the United States' relationship with the World Health Organization, signaling that the United States will join forces with the rest of the world to halt the rampage on coronavirus. And we wait to see that day. Mr. Biden is also expected to organize a summit of democracies and to recommit the United States to exposing human rights abuses wherever they arise, whether in China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, or Turkey. At the same time, he will seek ways to revive the nuclear deal with Iran and agree with Russia to extend the New START treaty on limiting strategic nuclear arms. Hopefully, Mr. Biden will terminate American support for Saudi Arabia's terrible war in Yemen. These are all welcome signs of America's imminent return to a role in the world that better reflects our historical values. His team, Mr. Biden is said to be assembling, looks as if it will be composed of veterans of administrations past and paid-up members of the foreign policy establishment. If Republicans retain control of the Senate, Mr. Biden's appointments could be constrained by the need to get them confirmed, while the scope of his actions will often be reduced to what can be accomplished through executive orders. Even a Senate controlled by Democrats would not presage a Democratic departure in American strategies and policies. Mr. Biden may tone down the trade war with China, but contentious differences on issues such as 5G networks or China's claim in the South China Seas will remain in the fore. Whatever hold President Vladimir Putin may have had on Mr. Trump almost never translated into a lifting of sanctions, and Democrats are not likely to seek a reset with Russia. So we see some of the things that they are saying, it's but a farce. It's but a wish, and it's but telling people that I will do this and I will do that, when no move was made before, and it is highly likely that no move will be made to change the situations now. Rules refresher. Here's a quick and easy summary of what's allowed over the Christmas in England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. They have all agreed that groups of 3 households can meet at home, outdoors, or in a place of worship from the 23rd to the 27th of December. Individuals will also be able to travel between tiers and across the whole of the UK without restrictions within the 5-day period for the purposes of meeting with their bubble. Those traveling to and from Northern Ireland will be permitted to travel an additional day on either side. Christmas COVID plan needed to make it through the rest of the winter, experts say. Despite a cautious response from some, one health expert has broadly welcomed the UK-wide plan to relax coronavirus rules over Christmas. But Paul Hunter, professor of medicine at the University of Anglia, warned that the relaxation of restrictions would almost inevitably lead to an increase in transmission. But he said the benefits for people's mental health from being able to meet up with family should not be underestimated. Any relaxation of the restrictions over the Christmas period will almost inevitably lead to some increase in the transmission, and therefore illness, hospitalizations, and sadly deaths may occur, he said. The issue is whether that increased risk is tolerable in relation to the benefits. So we need now people to look if the benefits outweigh the risk and know what we are doing when it comes on to COVID-19 and opening up our country. So other experts are already looking at that. We need to look at that too. Providing that the new tier system is better managed than in October, any increase in cases could be relatively short-lived. After Christmas, we will still have to live through a few more months of restrictions at least. Christmas, whether or not we celebrate the day as a religious festival, may be what we need to make it through the rest of the winter. And I'm happy he said this, about religious festival, because we recognize that nobody really knows if Jesus was born on the 25th of December. It has just been a tradition. Persons have also gone ahead to paganize the holiday, the birth of Christ, to commercialize it as just buying gifts, sharing gifts, or some just getting gifts and not even thinking of how Jesus went about his discipleship. Being a disciple, he was out there serving the people. People, we cannot be self-serving. We need to look at it from Jesus' perspective. Look at Christmas. Stop taking the Christ out of Christmas and commercializing it. Stop using the big C for commercialization. What we need to look at it as is Christ was born to save us. He came to earth to be the propitiation for our sins. He died and he rose again, and he's here and he's alive today, and he's helping us, but only if we decide to come to him. All right, so we need to wake up now, people, and recognize that at every opportunity cost, we must look first at giving Christ what's best for him and stop commercializing Christmas. Serious concerns for 3-tier Lancashire funding. 20 million pound demand. Local authorities in Lancashire are demanding 20 million in government funding to cover the county's 3-week period of Tier 3 restrictions before the whole of England went into lockdown. Leaders of all 15 authorities have signed a joint letter to Boris Johnson Chief Strategic Advisor Sir Ed Lister outlining serious concerns over the apparent disregard for an agreement reached in mid-October which secured an extra £30 million to cope with the Tier 3 measure. They said the fact that London and other southern areas could receive the same compensation for the 4-week lockdown as Lancashire will for 7 weeks of restrictions was unfair and divisive. So we see our people divided cannot stand. I'm now going to send you over to Sheena, who will give you today's nugget.
Together in this place.
Hey guys, I'm so happy to encourage you today. Please remember, with God, all things are possible. Only believe. The goal is to develop spiritual stamina. So when problems occur, we don't react out of our emotions, but we react out of our wisdom. Let me tell you something. You're not insignificant. You're not a non-factor. You have purpose. Give your burdens to Jesus because he cares for you. Don't worry too much. God got your back. God bless. Take care of yourself and your families.
Together in this place.
Last up on today's headlines, plane passengers may need vaccine to fly, airline says. Also on the subject of travel, one airline has raised the possibility of a mandatory vaccination passport for anyone who wants to travel. Qantas Chief Executive Alan Joyce said he had been talking to his counterparts at other airlines around the world about the plan. We are looking at changing the terms and conditions to say for international travelers that we will ask people to have vaccination before they get on the aircraft, Mr. Joyce told Australia's Network 9 television. He said creating a vaccine passport for inbound and outbound travelers to and from Australia, where Qantas is based, would require a lot of thought and logistics and may need government intervention. Now there we go. This is the ultimate, people. You soon can't go anywhere. So you see, for my Jamaican people, I say to you, travel Jamaica, enjoy your homeland, enjoy your land of wood and water. And I want to thank you all for joining us this evening on MTM Newsweek magazine. You have a blessed weekend.